when we have a look at like the macroeconomics of psychedelics, generally when you have a look at a pharmaceutical model, what occurs is you put someone on an antidepressant and they start taking that antidepressant. If we have a look at, you know, a drug such as Xanax, it's the most prescribed psychiatric medicine in the United States. And after 2 weeks, you've got a 50% chance of dependence. So anyone that's using a benzo or has had trouble getting off a benzo would be able to comment a lot about that. Very similar to getting off an opioid, which can create enormous challenges for individuals. So if we're looking at an approach where historically an individual's been prescribed a medication and they take that, the revenue that comes from that funds these big companies. Now, if we're seeing that 1 dose, 2 dose, 3 dose at a high level is able to eliminate some of this, where's the financial model supports how well this can go? And I don't know if this is interesting to people, but when we have a look at adoption of psychedelics, we need the people that are making money from this and where that's going to be shared and what that could look like. Also, we need the system that can support that. So microdosing may have a role because people can take this more frequently, which then supports the revenue, which can come from a widespread adoption of psychedelics. The other key thing to think about is that at the moment, if someone is going to be using a substance, a psychedelic substance for their mental health, generally what that involves in the new context is that you have 2 trained therapists with you. And that session can last up to 8 hours. So as a patient, you would go in and you'd have 2 trained therapists, plus there would be preparation beforehand around what to expect, the steps that are required to prepare them to have the experience, and then there's integration that follows. To give you an example, when I was a counselor, you could see up to 7 people per day, right? So it's pretty common to have 30 plus clients as a mental health professional that you see every day. Now, when we have a look at professional burnout, you get a bit of a sense about why some mental health professionals have a really big need to look at self-care and to keep themselves on track, because you're taking a lot of people's baggage. But you can kind of see that between those 2 individuals, in a modern day context, they could see up to 60 people per week, right? Or on a daily basis, they could see 12 to 14 people per day. If we have a look at a psychedelic context, they're going to see 1 person per 2 staff, right? So if you're able to see 5 people a week compared to 60 people a week, we need to think about what are the economics to be able to support such adoption, and how many trained therapists are going to be able to deliver what's called assisted psychotherapy to be able to support individuals. So one of the reasons why I think we need to be a bit more, ensure we take a step for data and research, and I've got a big bias. I am the CEO of a company that's very interested in this, so please acknowledge that I do have an interest in doing research, just for full transparency. But I also believe that that is the best option, because society and the infrastructure to support this, I can't see us being prepared for government and health systems to be able to employ the right amount of people, have the right training, and then work out the right financial model, which is going to ensure that we get this right and we don't repeat what happened in the 60s and 70s, and that we have society, like for one point in time, Timothy Leary was called the most dangerous person in America. And he was a psychologist at Harvard, and then he went on to be fairly instrumental in how psychedelics was used in the 50s and 60s. So he was a psychologist trained at Harvard, the most dangerous man in America. So how do we learn lessons from that? And how do we open up the framework for seeing how psychedelics can fit into society? And again, I'm biased because I've got a belief that we need to get the systems that are right in place. People are going to use these medicines, and hopefully they pick up on some of the literature, some of the lessons that have been learned in terms of what can support them to get better outcomes. But if we're looking at macroeconomics and how systems can work, we need to think about the infrastructure which is going to support that, and then the legislation that's required to be able to support widespread adoption.